There we go. Going live. 3, 2, 1. You're live. Hello and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. Thank you everyone for coming in tonight with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for coming. We got a great show for you.
Greetings and blessings, everybody, and we hope you're doing well on this Tuesday. And thank you as always, Robert.
Oh, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure. And tonight we got a special treat. It seems to be the time of prophecy. You know, hear the drum roll in the background. But anyway, yes, the times and the days of prophecy and the dogs barking in the background. Hang on a second. But anyway, okay.
And what is with all the UFOs, huh?
Yeah, UFOs, balloons, World War III on the brink. Will China be rolling in through California and the Russians through Alaska? Will the spill in Ohio take over and ruin a third of the plants and animals in that part of the country? I don't know. It's not looking good. And speaking of that, you know what I've decided? And I'm talking to the people in the chat room too. So if you're in for it, what do y'all think if I started a news that you can use channel? Would anybody be interested in listening to that?
I don't know. What kind of news can I use?
Well, I mean,
I'm kidding.
I'm thinking, I researched the news a lot, and I'm thinking, yeah, that might not be such a bad thing. I wonder if the Soul Tribe would be interested in listening to that stuff. And there's Elderberry. Steve-O is in the house. Susie Q. And Lucky Stone. There we go. Paradox Fossils. Yes, thank you all for coming. We got a great show for you tonight. Now, who out there has heard about the Hopi prophecies? Now, the Hopi are a group of Indians that live down in the Southwest. If you don't know, and I am going to get some stuff up here so we can share. As always, I am prepared. We have a lot of stuff to go through. Okay, I got a PDF here, and we're going to read a little bit out of this. And I think I'll wait for that to be last. We're going to go with the Hopi Indian part. I'm going to start with my number one thing. Yes, that seems to be. Now, let me know in the chat if you guys have heard of the Hopi prophecy. Has anybody been there to see the rock? Have you ever been out Southwest, met any of the Hopi Indians and went through that area or anything? No.
I've met some folks from the Southwest. I had several folks who were friends of mine from Navajo tribe. But I've not been there myself except to drive through and wave out the window.
Okay.
Didn't have time to stop and investigate. Had to get home.
Well, that's the way it goes. Let's see. Hopi message. Hopi. I got a whole bunch. Oh, here it is. Hopi prophecy there too. I got to pull some of the stuff up, but I got a Hopi creation myth here somewheres, and I want to share that with you first, so we can really see who the Hopi were. Nope, that ain't the one. This has got it. Yeah, Hopi mythology. Okay, we're going to start with this, because this seems to be the most important one. And I got it all laid out, people. Well, Oh, so much for that. I started out with it good, but then I ended up badly, people. How did I manage that? Shrink that. I shrunk it down so I could see the, and we got Max Vision in the house. Thank you for coming. I shrank. I think I got rid of it. Oh no, I didn't. There it is. It's
I know
hiding
this
on
much
me.
about the Hopi prophecy. There are a lot of folks who are focusing on it within this last year or so. And
Yes.
so, you know, there are some of us who have done homework, you know, like I started into this, you know, 10, 15 years ago, easy.
Hmm.
Some of these folks now, this is all brand new to them. They've never heard any of this. So,
Yes.
you know, you got to take into consideration just in I was trying to fill a little time in while you were looking for stuff, but also in that, you know, how much of this do you believe? You know, to the native folks, you know, they believe they came from the stars, they believe this and that, where, you know, other folks are like, oh, well, that's just, you know, that's just legend. That ain't
Yeah.
really real, or it's not really, can't really happen, or okay, are you sure?
Well, we read out of this one book about Crazy Horse having, visions, when he went to look for him, and man, if you really try to see what, in your head what he was looking at, I think they pretty much came true.
Yeah.
So I found what I needed to find here, and we are gonna start out with this one. And I hope you can you see that? Did it come up? Yeah, it must have
Yep.
came up. Okay. We'll just go with Hopi mythology
And
and
the first line, and mythological tradition. Okay.
yeah,
It does complex religious and mythological. So nobody thinks it's true. It's all just myth,
yes,
where they believe it is actual fact.
yes.
I'll let you go, but right
Mhm.
off the bat, the Wikipedia, that they're already stating that it's a myth.
Yep.
Before you go any further, it's already a myth.
It's already a myth.
Okay, I'll shut up now.
Oh no, I agree. It's like anything else. They label it fake and then well, let's talk about the fake Bigfoot, or let's talk about the fake aliens until pretty soon they're not so fake anymore. So, okay, here we go. The Hopi maintain a complex religious and mythological tradition stretching back over centuries. However, it is difficult to definitively state that all Hopis as a group believe. Like the oral traditions of many other societies, Hopi mythology is not always told consistently, and each Hopi Mesa or even each village may have its own version of a particular story. But in essence, the variants of the Hopi myth bear marked similarly to one another. It is not clear that the stories told to non-Hopis, such as anthropologists and anthrographers, represent genuine Hopi beliefs, or are merely stories told to the curious while keeping safe the more sacred Hopi teachings. As folklorist Harold Corlander states, there is a Hopi resistance about discussing matters that could be reticence. Okay. Discussing matters that could be considered ritual secrets or religion oriented traditions. In addition, the Hopis have always been willing to assimilate foreign ideas in their cosmology if they are proven effective for such practical necessities as bringing rain. The Hopi had at least some contact with Europeans as early as the 16th century, and some believe that European Christian traditions may have entered Hopi cosmology. Cosmology, yes. Looks like cosmo. Yeah, anyway. At some point, indeed, Spanish missions were built in several Hopi villages starting in 1629 and in operation until the Pueblo Revolt in 1680. I think we read about that. However, after the revolt, it was the Hopi alone of the Pueblo people who kept the Spanish out of their villages permanently, and regular contact with the whites did not begin until nearly 2 centuries later. The Hopi Mesas have therefore been seen as relatively uncultured, at least through the early 20th century, and it may be poised that the European influence on the core themes of the Hopi mythology was slight. So there we go. Get rid of that one now. Anyway, so like I said, so that's our basis here. That's our basis. But remember, these people, yeah, you are definitely right. They believe, they've been brought up with this for hundreds of years. And even if the story differs from village to village, it still has the same core to it. That, it's like, yeah, a little Jack jumped up the hill and Jack ran up the hill. Either way, Jack got up the hill, right? Doesn't matter then.
Right. It was Jack in the hill when he went up it, no matter how he got there.
Yes.
But having met a legend keeper from the Tlingit tribe, they have to go through and tell that they get together every 2 years and tell the stories to each other so that everybody has it right.
Yes.
Whereas these other folks were separated. And so the stories were, about coyote or rabbit, or like we've read before, the stories about coyote from the Cherokee are not necessarily the same as the coyote stories from the Cheyenne or the Sioux. And so, and even out west, the stories are slightly different, but that the animals are the same and they represent similar things, and the fact that from one side of the United States to the other, they still use animal stories. Who told them to do that? I mean,
That's true.
Just so they're so easy to call mythology, but also, Greek mythology. Think about what Homer wrote, the Iliad and the Odyssey about the Iliad was about, the fall of Troy and everything. And the Odyssey was, Odysseus, who traveled around and, met the Cyclops and Hercules and all that kind of stuff. But, there's a lot of mythology, but there's a lot of fact in there too.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
So when you hear, I just want to warn folks, when you hear the word mythology, there's probably some truth in there. Because they've been proving stuff that Homer wrote, and everybody's, oh, it's just a myth, it's just a myth, it's just a myth, okay.
Well, there's no better way to keep a message alive when there's nobody fighting it off, when it seems like it's or it's not fact. You know what I mean? Because if it was fact, that fact, like they use real names, real people, and real places, governments or whoever's in charge of history would kibosh it.
Yep.
Right. But if you change the names a little bit, or you make it fanciful, fantasy like, it's going to keep going for years. It's going to have the same meaning or the same purpose to get through it all without being kiboshed by the overlords.
Right. When you hear when I've listened to the elders before, they say, our legends say.
Yeah.
Or our stories say, and then they tell the story. But I've listened to many different David American storytellers, and it's a story about the rabbit and the fox or whatever, and it's the same story as somebody else, but they have different methods of telling it. So me as a storyteller, we all have we embellish in certain parts, or maybe we stretch a little bit or add a little bit. And what I've noticed with some folks is they don't embellish at all. It's like it's really boring to listen to, quite frankly. you know, because
Yeah.
it's the coyote, he was a stranger, and the coyote did this. That's the story of Coyote, and you go, what?
Mhm.
You know, but from every village to every mesa, um, the fact that their stories were similar is what we need to focus on.
Yes, yes. So
Okay,
we're going to get
right.
right into this. So there we go. The Hopi story. And it is the Hopi tell us the story has repeated itself many times as far back as human memory reaches. And they have predicted where we will end up if we don't change course immediately. As Thomas Benyaka relates to these two timely talks from 1995, referring to a petroglyph on a rock near his home. 3 previous human worlds were destroyed when the people became greedy, worshiped technology as a god, fought and hurt each other, and repeatedly forgot the ethical teachings they'd been given to honor the earth as the source of life and sustenance. 3
Apocalypses.
I can't get that out of my mouth. 3 apocalypses inevitably ensued, first by fire, then by ice, and then a flood. Noah's flood floated through one book's collective memory to escape a similar greed-ending catastrophe. The future is visible in the now. The question confronting creative, thoughtful people today is, how are we going to emerge on the other side of this earth-changing moment? What do we need to do now? And what mistakes can we correct to reformulate a more ecologically sustainable and spiritually healthy future in which the air is clear and the earth is truly abides? You know, I got a good one for you. Did you know that the home of where the Hopi live and Tibet are on opposite sides of the earth? Totally opposite. So if you drill a hole there, you'd come out in Tibet. And did you know that the opposite word for like sun, is the word for moon in the Hopi language, and the word in Hopi language for moon is the opposite, meaning sun in the Tibetan language. Talk about strange, huh?
Interesting. Paradox.
Yes. I think this is the one we're going to. Yep, that's the one we're going to. I got these all in
Can
order.
you zoom? Is there a bigger picture of that petroglyph, or can you zoom into it on that
Oh,
one
I
picture?
can zoom in. And there we go. I think there's a couple more in here too of that. But you can kind of see there's the man down here, the line goes up, there's a block, and then there's 1, 2, 3, 4, and this is the 5th guy with the little bow and arrow. We'll get to another bigger,
Well,
better.
my curiosity is if that petroglyph
Yep.
states 3, catastrophes and blah, blah. Really? How did you get that from that? But anyway, okay, sorry. Just go to the next one.
Yeah.
You know me, like to zoom in on them pictures.
We'll figure it out here in a second. Hopi cycles of time, like the Mayan, among whom the Hopi once lived and whom they later traded, the Hopi conceptualized the cycles of time as world ages. The Hopi believe that we have suffered 3 previous world cataclysms. The first world was destroyed by fire, a common asteroid strike maybe, or a number of volcanic eruptions. You never know. The second world was destroyed by ice, and possibly a great ice age as recorded by many cultures around the globe. We can kind of prove that. A tremendous deluge destroyed the third world. Yeah, they talk about a big flood, the Noah's flood kind of thing. These 3 global destructions were not the result of merely random earth changes or astrophysical phenomena, but of humankind's disregard both for Mother Earth and for the spiritual dictates of the Creator. In other words, the cataclysmic events in the natural world are casually connected to collective transgressions or negative human actions. Unlike the Maya, the Hopi are rarely specific about the dates for the shifting of these ages. It has been said that the Maya were masters of time, whereas the Hopi are masters of space. The verb tense here is deliberate, given that the Maya no longer follow the long count calendar of 394-year cycles. Instead, they use the Tilzonken calendar of 260 days, an amazingly complex system nonetheless. Okay, we are reaching the end of the fourth world in the Hopi prophecy. Living on their three primary mesas, the Hopi continue to perform a series of annual sacred rituals within their ceremonial cycle in order to keep not just themselves, but rather the whole world in balance. It says here, Hopi Nima, or going home center ceremony, for the group of Hemis Kachinas and a variety of Kachina Manas perform and bring gifts of harvest food for the spectators, Kachina dolls for the young girls. As time goes by, this task is increasingly difficult because of our contemporary lifestyle, with its technologically gadgetry and unseemly allurements, continue to erode traditional ways of life and ancestral Hopi values. Fewer and fewer young Hopis are learning the indigenous language, customs, and ceremonies. More youth are leaving Hopi land to seek employment in urban areas. Yeah, who wants to live poor and broke when the world is full of trinkets and money and cars and houses and fame
Shiny
and
things.
Yes, exactly. Many spiritual leaders claim that we are living in the final days of the fourth world. More than 60 years, different Hopis have predicted various earth changes that signal the conclusion of current age and the onset of the fifth world. In 1970, Dan Kachavaga, Chongvava, the Sun Clan leader from the village of the Hotel Villa, who died at the age of 112, spoke about the deteriorating conditions of our time. Well, I guess at 112, he probably knew a few things. We have teachings and prophecies informing us that we must be alert for the signs and omens which will come about to give us courage and strength to stand on our beliefs. Blood will flow, our hair and our clothing will be scattered upon the earth. Nature will speak to us with its mighty breath of wind. There will be earthquakes and floods causing great disasters, changes of the seasons and the weather, disappearance of wildlife, and a famine in different forms. There will be a gradual corruption and confusion among the leaders and the people all over the world, and wars will come about like powerful winds. All of this has been planned from the beginning of creation. Okay, there's a prophecy, right? I told you I had a picture of it somewhere.
Okay, cool.
Okay, the two life paths on the prophecy rock. Another spiritual elder from the same third Mesa village, David Monamke, who may have lived even longer than grandfather Dan, had warned when earthquakes, floods, hailstorms, drought, and famine will be the life of every day. The time will have then come for the return of the true path, the zigzag way. The zigzag way refers to a line found on the prophecy rock, a panel of ancestral Hopi petroglyphs, rock carvings, of course. In northern Arizona, the zigzag is the upper of the two parallel lines. It supposedly represents the path of the two hearts, who are wreaking havoc on our Mother Earth and living contrary to ecological principles and the laws of nature. The lower line, on the other hand, is the path of the one hearts, who are close to the soil and growth of corn and beans and squash, that is adhering to the true Hopi way. The upper path is divorced from the natural world and totally immersed in the synthetic manufactured reality of iPhones and Xboxes and 360s. They're adding this. In essence, it is a lifestyle that the Hopi call the Kawalaskis, which means world out of balance, or life of mortal corruption and turmoil. The lower way, rooted in earth-based rhythms, find solace and spiritual sustenance from corn, pollen, sunlight, soaking rains, and vast desert vistas, a life accordance with the Creator or Great Spirit. Okay, I'm going to blow this up because I know you want to talk about it. Okay, I'm seeing this as this is the Creator here, and he's holding up the world. This, I assume, are the 1, 2, 3 worlds, and this is the fourth. When the fourth breaks apart, one's going to go down and one's going to go up. And I don't know what the cross and the circle mean. What about you? What do you say?
I don't see that at all, but you know.
Okay, well, I'm just telling you what I see. You
Oh,
can
I know.
interpret it any way you
but I
want.
mean, I'm like, there's 3 people standing there, and then one's a double. It's almost like, you know, and what makes that the character down on the bottom left, the Creator?
Well, he's holding up the world, isn't he?
But is that the world? I mean, you know, here's my point. Folks have said that's what it is.
Yeah.
So therefore we must make the picture fit because they have given us those thoughts in our head.
Well, that's a good thought. Yes, I agree with you.
So I mean, but I mean, what's to say that that's the world? What's with the little circles? They almost look like wheels to me, but you know, so it's almost like the guy in front is like pulling something, or it almost looks like a you know, a train engine to me or something. But where in that picture is, oh, the technology and the iPhones and stuff? Where's that at?
That I don't know.
You know what I mean? So they have assumed a bunch of stuff in talking about the prophecy.
And this is why I like your opinion. See, you look at it. This is why when one person looks at something that, you know, I mean, yeah, you can point this stuff out. I love it. I love it. Thank you.
You know, there are folks who say, you know, oh, well, we're archaeologists and this is what it means.
Yeah.
Who told you? Where'd you get this from? You know, is there some ancient scroll or text that explained this? Mm-hmm. Now, to the Hopi elders, you know, is that what the elders said? Did they add all this iPhone stuff and it means this and that, and you know, parallel worlds? What the bottom line is, you know, the top line is kind of straight to me until it gets to the zigzags. You know, I would say that it looks like, you know, there are folks that are, you know, together, and then that one figure at the end that looks like a double, one's got a triangle for a head.
That's true.
You know, and it looks to me like there's going to be some kind of stairs, or they're going to have to do some kind of climbing or going up, because everything is leaning up. But, you know, I don't see where they're getting all this stuff from the prophecy, from that petroglyph.
Well, yeah,
okay, that's your interpretation. I'm not saying that they're wrong, but I don't see it.
Well, no. I mean, that's the whole thing. I like that idea, because, you know, we're given this, we're told what this means, and then we go with that instead of thinking out of the box. And you just thought outside of the box, like,
well, you know me, I don't have a box to think out of.
There you go.
But
yeah,
for
awesome.
me, I look at stuff and I go, wait a minute, you know, some things like, okay, I can see that. And other things are like, you folks must be nuts. What are you smoking? You know, because I just don't see what you folks are seeing, you know, and it's this and it's that and interpretations and okie dokie.
Yeah, no, I totally get what you're saying. We can come back to this picture. I'm gonna go to the
Yeah,
next
it's okay,
set.
but I mean, you know, the
No,
cross
no,
could
I'm
symbolize something else too. But what's that thing coming out of that figure's head down on the bottom left? You know, is that one piece of hair?
yeah,
You know, what's that coming out of his head? Just asking when none of the other critters do. But
that is well. This guy up
anyway,
here's got something coming out of his head,
yeah,
but
but
it's a
that's a
triangle.
triangle. You almost wonder if that might be, it's almost like whatever it is standing on his leg with two legs
Yeah,
standing on the one. So it's almost like there's something standing there on him.
yeah, yeah. I agree. I
But
agree.
anyway, okay, you know I'm crazy.
No, no, I love it. Let's read what they got to say about this. This large sandstone panel facing due east was incited in the ancient, in ancient times with various crane symbols. The petroglyphs were carved on a vertical surface of the boulder. What follows are merely possible interpretations. There are no means an official Hopi reading of the symbology, or nor are they sanctioned by the Hopi themselves.
Then what are they talking about him for? But anyway.
Yeah, that's so true. The figure at the lower left is Mashu, Masa, the Hopi god of death, fire in the earthly plane. He carries a bow with his arrow pointing to the underworld, previous third world. His left hand holds the path to the current fourth world. The circle to the right represents the earth or rim of the horizon. The Christian cross signifies the Spanish Catholic incursion of Hopi land. The square represents a village, pueblo, plaza, or the Hopi territory. The two parallel lines position obscurely refer to the two life paths humankind may take at the end of the current fourth world. As previously mentioned, the upper line is the path of the two hearts. One on this line are four figures with joined hands. The last figure appearing to have two heads or hearts. This line ends up in a zigzag up in the air. The lower line is the path of the one heart. So there you go. Yeah, you know, like I said, I was just interpreting it from what I listened to all day and
Oh, I
read, and
understand.
and that's what I'm trying, but
But
that's what
so,
they're
but
saying.
there's one thing that they said right off. This in no way represents anything, you know, are merely possible interpretations. They are by no means an official Hopi interpretation of the symbology,
And that's for
nor are
sure.
they sanctioned by the Hopi themselves. So it's just conjecture then. Somebody
That's
just came up with something and said, well, it could be this. Mm.
yep, that's pretty
But so
much
by
could be.
saying that, though,
Mm-hmm.
even though they make the statement right up front that it's not sanctioned, they still go on with their stuff so
Yeah,
that people get it into their head that that's what it means.
I agree. I agree. Okay, let's go on. Resting on this line from left to right are three circles, which represent three world shakings or three world wars. To the right of the last circle are a cornstalk and a Hopi man tending corn. This line extends to the right, across another section of the rock, whereas the upper line is not extended. The line on the right between the two parallel lines and perpendicular to them represents the last chance the two hearts have to descend to the true path on the lower line. Grandfather Martin Gashwanama from the Fire clan of the Hotaville, the village on the third mesa, stated to a group of us in front of the prophecy rock during the summer of 2011 that this lower line represented everlasting life and the rising sun. Indeed, it did a quick compass check of the extended lower line and found that if one stood at the point with his or her with the rock to your back, one would directly face the spot on the horizon where the sun rises on the summer solstice. The Hopi say that at this time, Tatwana, the sun god, is the strongest and resides in his Tawaki or summer house. I don't know how they get all of that out of that thing, but you're right. I kind of agree with you for sure. Okay, let's go on here with the signs that the fourth world is winding down. I love how they put all this together and got that out of that rock for a prophecy. Maybe there's more to it that they just ain't telling us.
Well, I would absolutely agree with that.
Yeah, I don't know
and
how.
I think some of those elders are going, because I've sat around with some of them back in the day, and a bunch of white people show up and go, "Ooh, tell us, grandfather, about this rock," and he goes, "Yeah, okay," and blah 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 blah. Because whatever I say, these folks are going to go home and believe this shit. Yeah, and some of them are like, yeah, we tell this story, and and they're just making that mess up. I'm not saying they all do it, but I have been around some of them where they've just had it with the white man.
I can
anyway,
see that happening. Signs that the fourth world is winding down. Some other predictions made public by various Hopi elders in the 20th century include the possibility of the fourth world's demise. These involve an increasingly erratic climate and a few specific signals or signs of social and political imbalance. The prophesized earth changes include earthquakes, tsunamis, hurricanes, tornadoes, record flooding, wildfires, droughts, and famines. Well, we have that all the time, all over the world. Okay.
I know in my 70 years, there's always been storms. There's always been hurricanes. There's always been droughts in Texas. I mean, look back in was it the 20s and 30s when the Great Dust Bowl out west in Kansas and Oklahoma, and there was just nothing but dust everywhere, and people migrated out, oh my God, the things that have happened to us here in the United States, and the fact that okay, but what makes this time any more terrible? We had 3.5 inches of rain over the last couple of days. The river has come up to like 14 foot, which is up, it was down around 7 3 days ago. But we've had floods before and around this time of the year. And if we don't get a flood about this time of the year, it's abnormal. So, but everybody, oh, it's flooding this time of the year. Well, that's because we haven't had one in a while.
Mm-hmm.
It used to be regular. So because people haven't lived long enough, and I'm just full of old age, the folks just don't remember how bad times were, or how bad storms were, or how bad this was, or, I remember there was way back in the day, there was earthquake up in Alaska and Anchorage many, many years ago. Oh, the world was coming to an end then.
Yeah. Well, think about right now, we just blew off Turkey. That they're talking of 28 to 30,000 people dead. And, we didn't give them a blink of an eye, did we?
Nope. And actually the number's up to about 41,000 now.
Okay, 41,000 dead people. And what did we do? Well, they're still holding hands and singing Kumbaya. It's like, 40,000 dead in a big earthquake. If 40,000 people died in the United States with a big earthquake, it would be the biggest disaster. There would be memorials all over the place. People would be crying in the streets. They would be calling out that the world was ending and life can't even go on. Oh my goodness, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it would be devastating. People wouldn't know what to do or think. because 40,000 people died. But another country, 40,000 people dead. I got to go to work tomorrow. Hey, how's the Super Bowl? You know, you know what I mean? Did you watch the Super Bowl commercials? And 40,000 people did. I don't care. I watched the Super Bowl. You know, I don't get it. Yeah, we just don't know. I mean, in that way, we're losing touch with reality, I guess. But let me go on here and finish this up. The Hopi also predicted a number of technological changes that would signal the end of the fourth world. Long before it happened, the elders said a gourd of ashes would fall on the earth. This refers, of course, to nuclear explosions. That's their
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah, of course.
Of course. Of course, of course, of course, of course. And who would talk to a horse, of course.
Yes, that's right. See, your imagination starts following those things.
Mr. Red.
First, the atomic blast at Trinity Site in New Mexico, then a dual holocaust of Hiroshima and Nagasaki. Finally, the other hydrogen bomb tests on the Pacific atolls and the American Southwest, and their carcinic effects on the downwinders. Hopi prophecy includes.
But they're not counting the Chinese test. They're not counting the Russian tests. They're not counting the, I'm sorry, but wait a minute. Those are just hours.
Yeah, that's right.
Just want to note that.
Yeah. Hopi prophecies include the fact that people would ride in horseless wagons on black ribbons, vehicles on asphalt. In addition, aerial vehicles would travel roads in the heavens, pathways in the sky, either begin being contrails or benign contrails or the deleterious chemtrails. Yes. The Hopi also stated that one of the final signs is the people would be living in the sky. Well, and they say space station. Hopi elders also foresaw numerous social changes. I didn't read that. So they said the Hopi delegates would travel at 4 different times to the House of Micah, the UN building in New York. But each time their pleas for peace would be ignored. The socially conservative Hopi culture also believed that the end of the fourth world would be signaled by women starting to wear men's clothing. Women's liberation movement, maybe the transgender movement too. Finally, at Hopi, I added that part. Finally, a Hopi friend of mine in his 50s said that his grandfather had predicted in the 60s what seems to refer to the 9/11/2001 event. He said that this event would happen when America was sleeping and the country would wake up to a thunderous eruption of war. We must remember that Hopi prophecies are not contemporary readings of world events, but statements made centuries or perhaps a millennia ago. These disturbing commentaries on our current state of global affairs were simply relayed through the generations to present via the Hopi oral tradition, with very few alterations made in the process.
Wait. Very few variations made in the but earlier on they said that from mesa to mesa the story was different.
Yeah.
So there's contradictions in their own report.
That is true. Many Native American people share a belief that they emerged from the earth. The Hopi, the westernmost group of Pueblo Indians, is one of these people. The Hopi original origin story has it that the Hopi used to live beneath the earth. When it came time to emerge into the world, the Hopi met Masa, caretaker and creator of the earth, and promised him that they would help take care of the world as a trade-off for staying. The sacred story of Hopi origins include a covenant that the Hopi peoples will be stewards of the earth. After making this promise, Pueblo Indians began a sacred quest under Masa's order to find center spaces and settle, and populations marked their settlements with spiral insignia as they found them. And I think we read that one. And there we go. Okay. We'll stop right there for a minute. Anyway. Yeah. So anyway, Hopi prophecy is Hopi prophecy. I mean, it's just like anything else, I mean, I guess if I had a dream last night and I said, I rode on a green carpet and, there was swinging things in the air. I mean, you could interpret it any way you want.
Yep. Years ago, in about 2003, so I mean 13, I had a series of dreams, events, and prophecies to me, and some of them have come true, but not in the way that it was showed. It showed that folks were going to be looking for food and starving. Well, but not in the way that, was kind of seen in my dream. But, we've been through 2 years. I mean, there is still, there's still food on the shelves locally here, but there's still a lot of empty spaces too.
Yeah.
And so there are other cities and places where I guess there are whole shelves and aisles that don't have anything on them. But in a way, so people have been starving in a way that kind of sort of came true. And some of these, earth changes and things with volcanoes and stuff and earthquakes that I saw all those years ago. A lot of that has come true. But we haven't come to an end of the world. And are my prophecies good or bad? But to me, the dreams that I had were not the same as how things have turned out. But how things have turned out has, it's true. We have had an issue. It's true. We had the pandemic. It's true. We've had some severe earth changes. It's true. There's been a lot of ups and downs. And years ago, when Brian and I first talked, I said, my prophecy about this, what's going to happen in the next few years is there's going to be so many ups and downs. Everybody's going to have to just get in an inner tube and put it around you. And you're just going to have to go up and down with the waves, because sometimes things are going to be really good. And the next day it's like, that's the downside of the wave. And it doesn't mean that it's bad. Well, over these last 5 or 6 years, it ain't been nothing but roller coaster ride.
This is so true.
Quote my prediction of that, if you want to, I ain't trying to claim it.
No, but, no.
We all have dreams or things. Well, that particular one, I still stick to that one.
Well, and that's the thing. It's like they said, like during the Great Depression, bunches of millionaires went broke, but bunches of broke people became millionaires. All at the same time. Some people's good fortune is somebody else's bad fortune. And, like you said, it changes. Think about the guy, what was it? There was that story. And I heard it many a times about the rich dude who went to the hotel and he gave a $50 gold piece or something to the bellhop, and then after a while, the bellhop, he saved that $50 gold piece, and eventually the rich guy went broke. And the hotel came up for sale or something. I don't know how true this is, but anyway, the bellhop got to buy the hotel with that $50 gold piece, or whatever it was. Maybe it was more. But
it
anyway,
was investment.
And yeah, and so now the bellhop was the rich guy, and the rich guy was the bellhop.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's a trade-off, because and some people get rich. It's all, the world creates chaos, and then somebody figures out how to plan to get rid of the chaos, in the midst of it.
Well, it's a collective thing, because out of the depression, people came up with ideas on their own without financial backing. They figured it out,
Mhm.
And of course, it was also a time of the gangsters,
Oh,
but
yeah.
and Bonnie and Clyde and stuff like that. But the idea though that people got themselves out of it,
Mhm.
it took several years, but that yeah, there were bread lines and yeah, there were this and that. Well, look how long we've had bread lines.
Well, yeah, and the thing is
And look how many homeless people there are all over the place. And we're not in the same depression that happened back then, but we
well,
have the same types of issues.
well, and see, the government figured out how to get rid of those bread lines by giving everybody, Social Security or welfare, food stamps. That way, you can get food, but you don't have to stand in a line. And I mean, they figure out ways around stuff, so it doesn't makes everybody feel good. You know what I'm saying? So instead of driving down the road and seeing all these people waiting for bread, now they give them the food stamps, and they're just like everybody else, and it brainwashes you, and you're thinking, well, everything's great.
Yeah, when it's not.
When it's not, yeah. So the homeless people, they go down to the welfare shop and they give them a place to stay at minimal cost. So now you don't see the people, living in a tent or on the side of the road, that you would have seen back in those days, because they do get help. But there is homeless people nowadays.
Oh, a bunch of them. I mean, they say San Francisco is just rife with it. And what used to be, ooh, San Francisco is now like yuck. But
Yeah.
Here's something to consider. I think it was Jimmy Dore who had done this special, one of his shows about homelessness. And he said, which state in the union has the lowest homeless population? Can you guess?
North Dakota.
Mississippi.
Oh, really?
Because you know what?
Uh,
The state of Mississippi decided that it was going to provide homeless shelters and homes and people to stay it was cheaper to get them off the street. So there's almost like 1% homelessness in the state of a southern redneck, and they've got the lowest percentage of homelessness, like almost zero, because the state decided to take care of it. There were enough empty buildings, and they just decided, nope, instead of spending money on bread lines and on all this other stuff, we're going to give them housing. Because if we can give them housing, then they can get a job, they can keep a job. And but if you don't have a house to stay in, well, then everything else kind of falls apart.
Well, yeah, because in order to get your check, you need an address, you need a place that you call home, you need to take a shower, clean up, keep your stuff, etc., etc., etc. Because if you're homeless, you probably ain't gonna have, unless you live in your car. What are you gonna do? Where are you gonna, how are you gonna make money? And if you can't make money, well, you can't have all that stuff. And like you said, in California, they're living on the sides of the street in tents. I've seen it myself on the videos and stuff, and it is kind of sad. I mean, if it wasn't for the good weather there, them people would be hurting bad. But then again, everything in California costs so darn much. You could have a $10 an hour job, and you could still not be able to pay rent with your whole paycheck.
Yeah, you couldn't rent a cardboard box at $10 an hour. But also, there's I can't remember the name of the YouTube channel, but there's a guy that lives up in Washington, D.C., and he goes around and drives around. Sometimes he rides a bike, sometimes he walks,
Mm-hmm.
And there are certain parks in Washington where the homeless people go, and it's a tent city in this park in the middle of DC.
Mm-hmm.
And they just, okay, so
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy. But no, I totally understand that. Okay. What do I
isn't it
got?
interesting that the they still look at homeless people who are, quote, get this, living in tents
Yeah.
as savages
Okay, I
today.
do. Oh, yeah. Oh,
In a way, I think we've gone full circle because now there are white people living in tents like the native did, 100 years ago.
this is true. Somebody in the chat mentioned the Rainbow Warriors. So I am going to share this one. This one's pretty short. It's only that much. So I'm going to read this one and then we'll move on with your stuff here. Hang on. So, okay. Navajo Hopi prophecy of the whirling rainbow. There will come a day when the people of all races and colors and creeds will put aside their differences. Oh, that's so nice. They will come together in love, joining hands in unification to heal the earth and all her children. They will move over the earth like a great whirling rainbow, bringing peace and understanding and healing everywhere they go. Many creatures thought to be extinct or mythical will resurface at this time. The great trees that perished will return almost overnight. All things will flourish, drawing sustenance from the breast of our Mother Earth. The great spiritual teachers who walked the earth and taught the basics of truth of the whirling rainbow prophecy will return and walk amongst us once more, sharing their power and understanding with all. We will learn how to see and hear in the sacred manner. Men and women will be equals in the way Creator intended them to be. All children will be safe anywhere they go. Elders will be respected, valued for their contributions to life. Their wisdom will be sought out. The whole human race will be called the people, and there will be no more war, sickness, or hunger forever. And there we go. Well, and there it is. Well, what do you think of that one? That was I leave it off in a good joyous prophecy. Steve-O says, I started in a tent and then I had a cabin. Let's see. Yeah. Susie Q says, I've lived in a tent more than once. Deborah L. Smith is in the house. Oh, yeah. And Max Vision says, I did the tent life. Wow. How about that? Lee's in the house. Michelle Can-Am Free. Thank you for coming. Regine Hutchinson, thank you. I'm seeing Nina the Mystic. Yes, thank you. Any word on Isby, people? Peabody calls. I see somebody mention Isby, but I don't see Isby. I heard Isby was in the hospital, so everybody please send him good vibes over the weekend. Really, it breaks my heart. I heard he fell. He broke a hip or a leg. He got from the hospital. Oh yeah. He broke his hip or his leg, one or the other. That's sucky. I hope he's doing all right.
Yep.
I'll have to try calling him, but see if I can get a hold of him. But anyway, okay. Well, what do you think of all that? I mean, do you got any prophecies that you want to predict besides the up and down and
Well, years ago, and it kind of sort of seems in the same way, that it was shown to me that Mother Earth was going to take back some of the energy that we, the people, have taken from her. And unfortunately, it's going to be in earthquakes and bad hurricanes and stuff, but we've had these things all along, but the more we seem to get away from natural things and folks, they when that hurricane came through on the around Daytona Beach and over there, the whole beaches were collapsing into the ocean and people's houses, were falling in onto the beach and stuff, you know, you dumbass, quit building so close to the ocean when you know it might be 20 or 30 or 50 years, but the ocean's going to come up and get you. It just is, you know. I'm sorry. And then everybody, oh my God, my house is gone. Well, you shouldn't have built right on the beach. I'm sorry, you know, you're inviting trouble.
Yes.
And
I agree.
so, you know, I think that Mother Earth is kind of showing people, you know, you got to use some common sense here, y'all, you know.
You
And
know,
folks just seem to
the funny
think that,
part is we have technology right now that you could build a house on the beach that would not get destroyed. Yet,
yeah, but it doesn't mean that there's going to be any sand or anything around it.
well, that's true, because there are places
The
where they
house
have
might
built.
be there, but you might not, you know, look at how many of those big tall buildings they had to evacuate because the ground underneath them had moved and the sand. So, you know, but, you know, should you build there is the question, you know, and then no matter how well you build it, should you, you know, that should be it. I've got relatives down in around Riverview, Florida, south of Tampa. And there are 1 million homes going in a swamp. It's 2 or 3 feet above sea level at best. And they're literally putting in 1 million homes in this area. No, it's a wetland. It's a swamp. And you know, but when a big storm comes in and everybody that's 2 or 3 feet above sea level gets swamped with a 10-foot tidal surge, they're all going to go, oh, my house was destroyed. You dumbass, don't build there. Pay attention. I'm sorry. Pay attention.
But you're right, because, you know, they may live there for 10 or 20 years and nothing happens. And then they think, this is great. I grew up in this area my whole life, and it's been wonderful. And then all of a sudden, bam, the place floods and everything gets ruined. And they're like, oh, what happened? Oh, well, you know, that used to be a swamp. Grandpa over there says this used to be a swamp. And then
they're building these out, they're dredging out some of the swamp area and building the land a little higher, but it's still less than 10 feet above sea level.
Yes.
Okay, it's 2 miles inland, but it's only 4 feet above sea level for 20 miles inland. You know, y'all pay attention, and they're just not. So, and folks are moving down there in droves, and the houses are sold before they can buy them. I mean, before they can build them. I mean, so the boom has just gone nuts. But what's going to happen when one storm comes in? And I've lived in Florida. I've got relatives down there, and I've seen destruction, and I've seen a storm. I was down there one time during Isaac or something, and it just missed us. And it went below us, you know, from where I was staying with my sister at the time. And folks south of there, it was a severe tropical storm, and it whooped on them really well, you know. Tampa has not been hit since I left Tampa. And if a good storm hits Tampa, downtown's going to flood. It's, you know, the all along Bay Shore, you know, it ain't but a couple of feet above sea level. And all these expensive homes along there and all the neighborhoods at MacDill Air Force Base ain't but a few feet above sea level. And, you know, they've just been lucky that they've not been hit.
Well, that's what I said, you know, if it doesn't flood for 20 years, you know, somebody could grow up in that area and go, I've never seen water like this before. But like I said, Grandpa, who's 50 or 60 or 70 years old, says, I remember when this place was all underwater and it was a big swamp. We never used to come out this way till they drained it, blah, blah, blah. And then you built your houses here. You idiots.
I remember that in 1962 or 63, that, you know, Hurricane Donna came through Tampa.
Yeah.
knocked down all kinds of trees, knocked out the power. The streets were flooded for days on end. And, and I don't think it's been that bad since. But
Mhm.
the thing is, it happened.
Yeah. But
And then a couple of years later, there was another hurricane that went through Tampa around
yeah.
1970-ish or 69 or something like that. But, came through and knocked down a couple of other trees against our house and
Well,
flooded all the streets. And, but I don't think Tampa's had a really bad storm in the last 50 years. But that don't mean that ain't one going to come in there and just smack the bejeebers out of them folk. I don't wish it, but look what happened this last season down there around Sanibel Island and everything. All them people. I had an aunt that lived down there for years, never had a storm come in. But she's dead now. But where she used to live, it was just devastated.
well, yeah, and that's what I'm saying. So like I was reading about it in like the late 1700s or early 1800s, a big hurricane went through that area, along the Florida coast and up the whole coast, eastern side. And they said the death toll, and I imagine it was more because it's hard to count back in those days, but it was 6,000 people died in that hurricane. And I'm thinking, usually now when you have a hurricane, if 20 people die, it's big news.
If five
Yeah.
people die, it's depending on the
Oh,
storm. But yeah,
yeah, exactly. I'm thinking, what's in my head is 6,000 people died. What kind of hurricane was that? I mean, how bad was that hurricane that many people died?
well, now you can watch it on radar. Now you can keep up with it. I mean, I remember the days when, they just had a picture of where the storm was. And,
Mhm.
if you could even get the TV station, they'd say, well, the hurricane plane is out. We're going to get an update. And they'll say, well, it's moved over here. But we didn't have all this satellite pictures and stuff. And we made it. But back in the 60s, I think it was Hurricane Camille that hit the panhandle up I think it's Alabama, Mississippi, up in there.
Mhm.
It was as bad at the time as Katrina or some of these other ones we've had. It killed people, it wiped out, it was horrible. Oh, but we've never had bad storms. Yes, we have. Yes, we have. And
Yeah,
I'm sorry, but after I'm dead and gone, we're still going to have storms.
right.
This planet will always have storms.
It's gonna
There
have
are going to be
storms.
droughts at
It's good.
times.
Yes.
Right now we've got 14 foot of water in the river. It had 7 foot of water in it 3 days ago.
Yep.
We had
And
a
it
bunch of rain.
and we're gonna have earthquakes, and we're gonna have, everything. It's like you go around the world and they're talking about these meteorites, and this was from a meteorite. I was just listening to this on the thing, and this lake was caused by meteors, and this was caused by a giant a volcano in Greece or Pompeii or whatever how it was, exploded. And then the thing is, well, that hasn't happened in 1,000 years, but it's going to happen again, I'm sure.
At
One of
some
those,
point,
yeah, at some point,
at some point, you know, um, look how many things have been dormant. Look how, over in Hawaii, how that volcano woke up a few years ago, and it is sort of kind of still active, but not near
Mhm,
like it was a few years ago.
mhm,
But we all thought we were going to die because it was erupting again. You know, I remember a couple of years ago down around Guatemala, the big volcano erupted down there and killed a bunch of people from the pyroclastic flow and everything. And it was horrible. So yeah, and that, the earthquakes over there in Turkey and over there, they've been having them for centuries. This ain't the first time.
yeah,
And one's got to say, look, have you seen how they build over there?
mhm,
You got to wonder, have you folks not learned that you have earthquakes? Have you not learned how to build better? I'm sorry, but those structures would topple at almost anything. And I'm sorry for all the people who have died. I honestly am.
We'll look at
But,
Japan.
to be in some of those structures, I don't think I'd want to live there. But
I watched a documentary on Japan, and Japan has a lot of earthquakes, right? And they were saying those Japanese people, when they built houses, even hundreds of years ago, they had figured it out on how to build a house that was earthquake proof, because they deal with it all the time. They put a pole in the middle of the house.
Yep.
And then everything was attached to the pole.
Yep.
And as the pole would sway, it would, that was like the mast, and then the whole place sways, but then it stays up.
I have poles in the middle of my house, and I can vouch for that.
Yeah.
In a high wind, the house, because it's 2-story, has swayed, and I'm like, holy crap. But also, have you seen how they build some of those Japanese and Chinese pagodas? There's no nails in them.
Yeah, that too. Yeah.
And they're put together with tongue and groove. And some of these things are centuries old. And they have done testing with these things and have given a scale model on an earthquake platform. Yep. And then run it up to a 10. And these things don't even fall apart. They still just wiggle around and jiggle, jiggle, jiggle. But when you turn the machine off, it's still together. Yeah, so there are ways to build things that are ancient.
That's the thing. Those guys, hundreds and hundreds of years ago, could build a structure without all this technology that we got.
With no nails.
Just
common hand tools, a chisel and a hammer and a saw.
Yep. And yet today we build stuff and you don't want to be living in it. So anyway, that's the whole point. It's like these places, like we've studied the Inca, the Mayan, those giant rock structures and stuff like that. I mean, they've been there for thousands and thousands of years, and yet they're still standing, but all the houses around them, they fall down because those rock structures, and they're just melted together kind of, and yet they are still together after all this time.
Since we're talking about earth changes and things, there's stuff going around right now. And I gotta say, personally, I don't believe it, okay? That the center of the earth has stopped rotating and is going the opposite direction.
No,
I'm sorry. Whoever scientist or whatever this is, I honestly believe it's BS, because the amount of weight that would be involved in something that's rotating on the inside of the planet, anywhere. You can take water, you can do all kinds of stuff and swirl water around, get it to stop and go the other direction. So the idea that here is this huge planet with all of this mass and all of this centrifugal force and all the spinning and everything, so that they're trying to say that the core of the earth is stopped and is going the opposite. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. I don't believe it.
Well, one guy explained it.
Natural physics say that is very close to an impossibility. And we would, if the middle of the earth quit rotating, the outside of the planet would be just cracking all over the place.
That is so fake. Yeah, I listened to a guy and he explained it, and he said it's the earth inside is still turning. It's just the outside is sped up. And because the outside is going faster, it looks like the other side is turning the opposite direction.
But I got to say this, I don't believe that the earth is sped up either, because I've been doing my own, my house is a solar house. It's passive solar.
Yeah.
And it faces south. So I can tell after living here for 40 years, it's a sundial. So I can look at my clock on the wall and tell where the sun is on the floor. And I'm here to tell you, if anything, the Earth has slowed down a little bit, because where the sundial should be 10 o'clock, it's actually at a 9:30 position.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, wait a minute, the sun hasn't caught up. It should be at the 10 o'clock position on the floor. Nope. So the sun is late. Now, to me, it doesn't say that the Earth is spinning faster,
Mm-hmm.
because of my own personal observations.
This is true. Yeah.
But there are sometimes when at 10 o'clock, it looks like it's 10:30 or going on 11. So there have been days when the sun has come up earlier. But most of my observations, especially here since, December-ish, when it's cloudy, I can't make observations, but on clear days like today, I can spot where the sun is. I've got marks in the windowsill, where I've made measurements and put the time down, so I can go over there and go, oh, well, that's my 10:30 mark, and it's not there yet, and it's almost 11.
Mhm.
So that tells me the Earth has slowed down, not sped
Mhm.
up.
I
So, but
agree.
anyway, but there are personal observations that you can make just by checking where is the sun every day. Pick a spot. It's really easy to do, to make to set
Mhm.
up a sundial and go check it. Check it with your
Mhm.
little digital watch and see how close it is, and you'll notice that, wait a minute, it's 30 minutes late today. What? Well, how can that be? Well, and tomorrow it's right on time, and the next day it's a little early, and you go, what? So that's where I was doing earth wobble videos years, I haven't done one in a while because I have been able to make observations.
Mhm.
But here to tell you though that yep, but as far as it spinning up faster, I really don't see that either. I really don't. And
Yeah.
if it has, it ain't that much.
No, exactly. I
It
kind of
it
agree with
it
that
ain't,
for sure.
it ain't that much,
Not enough for us to notice it.
and not to worry about.
Yeah, yeah. I agree. I agree.
So
We gotta.
with my earth wobble thing, and my observations of sometimes the sun is early, sometimes it's late, kind of goes with the wobble. In that if it's wobbling a little bit, one day it's a little bit early, and the next day it's a little bit late because we're wobbling. And
Mhm.
to me, that explains it.
Yep.
But I've been observing this now for the last 8, 10 years,
Mhm.
So, but anyway,
Hmm.
that's enough of that. So y'all quit worrying about some of this stuff. We are gonna have hurricanes, we're gonna have floods, and we're gonna have things happen in diverse places, just like the Bible says. But even if there was a big apocalypse, there would still be storms afterwards. There would still be droughts afterward, because weather is weather. It's always changing. That is the one constant we can believe in. Everything's is always in a constant state of flux. It's all, the world is always changing. Period. No matter how much we'd like it to stay the same, it ain't. But anyway,
Mhm.
okay, enough of that.
All right, I got
So
it
my
pulled up.
prophecy is there are going to be there are going to be continued changes.
I agree. I agree. How about we switch gears and go with this?
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Okay.
We've got 2 stories for you tonight. This one is a really short one, but it's interesting. And it is from the same book that we've read out of the last 2 or maybe 3 weeks now, Indian Folk Tales by Nixon Roulette and Mary F. from 1911. Now, this particular story is called The Crow Children, a Vancouver Island legend. There was once a woman, and she had 2 children whom she loved very much. She always took them with her wherever she went. This she did because she feared something ill might come to them. She was always kind to them, but they did not always obey her. This grieved her and made her poor in the mind, but she said, they will grow better as they grow older. One day, in the moon of the falling leaf, she took her 2 children in her bark canoe and went with them across the big water. She went to gather boughs from the spruce trees upon which she might collect the eggs from the salmon when the great fishes come crowding into the waters. It was cold. There was frost in the air. So she landed upon the sands and built a fire with sticks and branches that the children might be warm. Go not from here, she said, lest Hoots or its root get you. They dwell beyond the trees and they eat children. Beware. I will not go, said Ikopi. And Chawatam said, I will not go. And then the mother was at rest. Alki, I shall come, she said, and she left them and went to her work. It was very still in the spruce woods. The sun scarcely shone through the branches, and all was solemn and dark. The long arms of the spruce tree spread far out and drooped their little needles down upon the ground until they covered it with green pillows. The woman cut many boughs and was very tired, for she was no longer young. She was so tired that she lay down upon the green spruce needles, but she could not rest, for she heard the voice of Kitsinano calling, and yet it seemed like the voice of her children. She gathered up her boughs and sought her canoe, but her children were not there. She called aloud, but there was no answer. Akopi, she cried, but only Echo answered, mocking, Opie. Chawatam, again, Echo mocked from Twin Mountains, where he cried, Watam. Footprints led across the sands into the deep woods, and she followed them, but her little ones were not there. Where are my children? She cried to the silent pines. They answered not, but only shook their heads and sighed. Still further she fled into the forest, and the world seemed blue with pines, and still she found them not. She fled to the place of the fresh water and screamed to the silver birches. Where are my children, O birch trees? Tell me. The silver birches swayed low in the breeze, and all their leaves gave forth a rustling sound of mourning, but they answered not. Then forth from the forest there stalked an elk with horns like pine trees. And she cried to him, have you seen Ikopi? Chawatam, have you seen? And the elk shook his antlers and answered her sadly, no. By the fresh water she saw Enya and asked of him and of Enyapoo, but both made the same mournful reply, we have not seen them. Then the mother sorrowed and greatly and was poor in mind. My children, she cried, Ai, my children. And ever through her mourning, she heard the sound of Kitsiano's voice, calling as though her little ones called. Then she cried to her friendly spirits to help her, but they were sad. We cannot help you, they said. The fairies have changed your children into crows because they ran into the woods and disobeyed you. Now they must stay in the woods forever. Then was the mother as one bereft of her senses. She fled from the woods and told her husband what had befallen them, and she wept many, many days. But the husband carved the story upon the totem pole before his lodge, and there to this day it stands. And when the crows call from out the forest, children cling close to their mothers, and their mothers say, while gently twining their arms around them, it is good for children to obey. The end of that story.
Nice. You know what that reminds me of? I watched this show, 411 Missing with David Paulides.
Yeah.
And, this one here was from Vancouver, I guess. Yeah, pretty sure it said Vancouver. Yeah, Vancouver Island Legend. Well, that's where a lot of people go missing, And
Yep, there are a lot of folks that have gone missing up from the Northwest. That's true.
And, some of these stories that he tells, it sounded like one of those stories where the mother's there, the children are there, and then the mother turns around, the children are gone. And then, his stories go, well, they could hear voices in the woods, of the children, or it's something that sounded like them or whatever, or the person. And so they chase after them, or they look for them, or they don't know why they're gone, but there's no trace of them. And then they never find them, nor their clothes, nor their shoes, nor their nothing. I was just listening to one the other day, and, the hunter went out, or three guys went out hunting, and all three of them disappeared, and hundreds of people went out looking for them. Now, you think that three guys out hunting, all disappearing, you think you'd find some scrap of evidence, like a gun, or their boots, or shoes, or belts, or clothes, or backpacks, or something.
Or camping, or a fire, or
something, yes.
Just them, footprints.
Yeah, and they just disappear and never to be found again, or any of their stuff. And he is right when he says these people always disappear and none of their stuff is ever found. Nothing. I mean, and that is true. I mean, you should find some kind of clothing, shoes, something. Even after years and years, that stuff don't deteriorate very fast. And besides that, if somebody loses a gun, that ain't disappearing very fast, right?
Or shoes, or any, any normal clothing will last a little while,
Yeah, and most people don't go too far off the trail. I mean, especially, and then after all those people go looking for them, and a lot of times there's multiple searches, like they search, and then of course there's a snowstorm or something like that. Okay, they must be dead. Let's go back out next year or in the spring when it's a really nice day, and we'll search again, and still nothing found of them. How is that possible? Nothing found ever. So anyway, all right. Well, but that's what that story reminds me of. But it reminds me of that, what was I going to say, that something like that happened, and then they made a story about it, so children didn't want to leave their mother, even though this was based on reality, and they just couldn't say it was a 411 missing because they didn't have that. You know what I'm saying?
Yep. And there had to be stories of the boogeyman.
Yeah.
Every culture had stories of the boogeyman. If you don't do what we tell you, or if you go out there, or if you do this, the boogeyman will get you.
Because the boogeyman in a way was real, because people did go missing.
Yes, that's true.
And they go missing nowadays, but they went missing back in those days too.
Yeah. And whether or not they were actually turned into crows, those children disappeared. That's
Yeah,
the,
but
the
that,
true
but
part of the
that,
story.
oh yeah, but that's how you explain it. Well, they were bad and they turned into crows, and that's why you can't find them, because they're crows. They're flying around. They can't come up and tell you that they, yeah. So you make a myth up to make it sound okay.
And then other children, when they're growing up, they go, well, I'm not going into the woods because I might turn into a crow.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, whether that part is true or not, but the fact that as little children, you shouldn't go into the woods for whatever reason, because you're little children, you know, things happen. So, but anyway, so this next story we got up coming up is kind of sort of a two-parter. And it's a Blackfoot tale. The Trail of the Far Off Lodge. Now, remember, y'all, as I'm reading this book was written in 1911. So some of these stories are, you know, the book is over 100 years old. And so the stories are even older. Some of the newer stories aren't told like this. But anyway, let me get a swallow and I'll start. Good old coffee. The Trail of the Far Off Lodge, a Blackfoot tale. There was once a young man who was very poor. All his people had gone to the great beyond. He had no lodge, no home, but he was a mighty hunter, and the people of his tribe liked him, for he was brave and of good heart. He was tall and straight, and his face was good. But on one side of it, he had a scar. From this, men called him Scar on the Face, and that was his name. Scar on the Face loved. The maiden was the chief's daughter. She had been asked in marriage by many, but had said no. These I will not marry, she said. Why should I? None can give me soft robes or plenty of pemmican, and all these I have in my father's lodge. One day, Scar on the Face passed her lodge while she sat at the door. He looked at her and then looked away. One of the braves she would not marry saw and laughed and said, why do you not ask her? She will take none of us who are not marked. Perhaps she was waiting for one, Scar on the Face. I will ask her, said Scar on the Face with dignity. He walked back to her lodge, but she was not there. They told him that she was at the river, and he followed her. I will speak with you, he said simply. It is in my heart to marry you. Others you will not have, braves rich and with many furs and robes. I am poor, but I ask you, will you be my squaw? The girl hung down her head, and then she said, the man I marry would not be poor, for my father can give him furs and parfleche and dogs. I have no brothers in our lodge. My husband may live there and be happy. Am I to dwell there? He asked. Not yet. It is in my heart to marry you, but one day the above person, the sun, commanded me not to marry. He said that he had chosen me, so I dare not take you to husband. Only you may find him. Go then on the trail to the far off lodge. Find the above person. Say to him, she whom you wished would marry me. I want her. Take now the scar from my face, and let that be the sign that you give her to me. And then you may return to me, and you may dwell in my lodge. Then was the heart of Scar on the Face heavy, but he said, I will go on the trail to the far off lodge. Farewell, for he saw there was no other way. He started upon the trail and traveled for many moons. He asked a wolf where the Sun Lodge was, but the wolf knew not, and said, The bear is wise, ask him. The bear said, I have never seen it, ask the badger. But the badger sent him to the puma, and the puma to the owl, and none knew. Then a wolverine pitied him and said, I have seen it, and I will show you the trail. It is across the great water. When he reached the great water, he had no way to cross. He sat down in despair, but as he waited, two fine swans came and bore him across and set him on the right trail. Then he was strong and of good heart. He saw lying in his path some beautiful arrows and a bois d'arc bow, but he did not touch them. They were not his, and he passed on. Soon he met a fair young man who asked him, Did you see arrows on the trail? I did, said Scar on the Face. They are lying in the path a little way back. You are not one to steal, said the young man. Where do you go? I seek the sun, said Scar on the Face. I am his son. I will take you to him, said Apis Eritats, for it is indeed me, the morning star. And they went on together. The lodge of the above person was very beautiful. It was painted with animal figures and was larger than any that Scar on the Face had ever seen. Within was Morning Star's mother, Kokomikis, and she said, Welcome. And then the sun entered and greeted him kindly for the sake of his son, Morning Star, who liked him. Stay and hunt with Morning Star, he said. Go where you like, but go not to the great water, for birds dwell there that would kill my son. So Scar on the Face hunted with Morning Star. He loved the boar, and he waited for a time when he might ask the sun to give him his desire. One day, Morning Star ran from him, and in sport went to the great water, for he was willful and wished to kill the birds of which his father had warned him. Scar on the Face followed with the swiftness of the wind. I must find him, he said. The boy must not be killed by those cruel birds, or sorrow will come to his mother. At length he found the boy and killed all the birds with his spear. And Morning Star cut off their heads and took them to his mother. She was glad, and the sun also rejoiced. And then the above person said, You have saved my son. Hereafter you also shall be called my son. What do you wish? For none come on the trail to the far off lodge without reason. Scar on the Face told him of his love and said, She will not come to me because of you, for she is obedient, and you forbade her to marry. All this is true, said the sun. I knew everything before you came. She has been wise. Now she is yours. I likewise women and pity them, for the earth is not warm for them. Then he stroked the cheek of Scar on the Face with his hand, and it was no longer scarred, but smooth and fair. Return to her, the sun said. This is the sign that she may marry you. No more shall you be called Scar on the Face, but men shall call you Smooth Cheek, the beloved, for you will make all men happy. How shall I make them happy? Asked the young brave. Tell them this, said the son. When any man is ill, his wife may vow to make a lodge in my honor if he get well. If he is in danger, she may promise it for his safety. She must say this prayer. Great above person, O sun who rules the sky, hear. I am good, pity me. Spare him whom I love and pray for, and I will build you a medicine lodge. O sun, hear and have pity on me. And if she is a good woman, I will save the man. The lodge must be round. There must be a sweat house like the dome of the sky, painted in red and in black for the sun and moon. The lodge must be built when the sarvice berries are ripe. Farewell now, smooth cheek, the beloved. Take these 2 feathers for a sign to your wife. Now go and carry with you healing and happiness. Then the young man bade them farewell to the above person, to his wife, and to Morningstar. And they gave him many presents and robes and moccasins. They showed him a short trail to the earth, even the wolf road, and he traveled it in safety. It was not long before he saw his home. Many people ran out to meet the stranger, for they did not know him. So rich were his clothes, and so smooth his face. He passed them by and went to the chief's daughter. She knew him. It is scar on the face, she said. He is smooth-cheeked now, and she smiled, and happiness was hers. He gave her the 2 feathers as the above person had commanded. This is the sign, he said, for the above person sent them to you. Was the way long, she asked. It was long and hard, the trail to the far-off lodge, he said, but I found helpers. Then he told her all the above person had said. So she made promise as the son had said, for she was good, and they were married. She made the medicine lodge as the son had commanded, and the above person blessed them, and they were always well, and their children. Now notice in the bottom, there's a little note, and it says the Milky Way. And since I am on Milky Way's channel, interesting that at the end of the story, there's the Milky Way. So how's that, Robert?
Oh, that was good. That was great. It says there's a number for, even the Wolf Road. There's the number 1. Wolf Road is the Milky Way.
But I mean the fact that the Milky Way is at the end of
yeah, that I know what you mean, but I mean, even the I'm just trying to put it all together. It's all good. It's all good.
So 2 interesting stories. A story to tell your children to keep them out of the woods.
Yep.
And a story of perseverance by someone who's like true love and committed and, and honest, So all those things came through with scar on the face, and he saved the young boy, and went and killed all the birds that might have killed the son's son, Morningstar. And so, the fact that he was respected and he did these things with honor. It doesn't say that, but you can read it in the story. He did these things with honor, and because he was honorable, the son granted him the wish and made him his son also, So, but anyway, so if you do good things and if you're honorable, and you got to be patient too. So, but anyway.
Yep, you learn a lot from those stories. Susie Q is going Oh, good night, Sue or Max. Good night, all. Good night, Max. There's Max going. Joanne Dancing Gypsy's in the house. And Synchro9. Thank you. Come on. I haven't seen you here before. Yeah. Raven Steals the Light story. Like that one.
And it's interesting, and it's a good thing too, Robert, that you found these stories. But you know, it's a good thing we have them to be able to tell the stories. You know,
that's right. Well, and that's the thing is, when you have these stories and you listen to them, they're easy to repeat, even if you, like the woman with the two kids. If you had to tell that around a campfire, it might not be perfect, but it would probably be pretty close. The easy one to talk about. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it would be an easy story to ad lib. You wouldn't have to tell it exactly, you know.
Yep.
But she went into the woods and she cried to the trees and she cried to the pines and she went to the waters and, you know, no one answered her. And then finally, you know, so yeah, there are some stories like that, I mean, even the one that I just read, you know, that he went off to the Great Spirit or to wherever, whether it to be the sun or whatever, and to ask for this, you know, the sun could be the great chief. He had to go to the far off lodge to ask the great chief to, you know, for permission to marry this girl. And because there were many, you know, cultures and, you know, they had several wives. And so, you know, that wouldn't be too much out of the question. So you wouldn't have to tell the story exactly to still be able to tell the story.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you could have it close and it would still have the same meaning as long as you got the basis to it.
So that, and I'm saying that and discussing that because of what we discussed an hour ago with the Hopi, in that from mesa to village, the stories were similar, but not the same.
Yeah, but the big picture was the same.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what, you know, yep. So if
we got cards tonight?
I got one already pulled. So, but, oh, where was I gonna? Oh, well, never mind. I'll get to the card. So while we was yip yapping, I shuffled the cards and pulled one, and it's Dolphin.
Dolphin.
Yep, number 40 in the book. But it's upside down. I say, but you know, sometimes the upside down is a good medicine. But anyway, Dolphin, breathe with me. Breathe of the divine, manna of the universe. In the oneness we entwine. Dolphin speaks to us of the breath of life, the only thing that humans cannot go without for more than a few minutes. We can live without water and food for days, but oxygen is the source of our sustenance. Within the breath, we encounter the rhythm of energy that all life emits. In changing the rate of our rhythm of energy, in changing the rate or rhythmic texture of our breath, we can tap into any other life form or creature. This is a very easy way to connect with the divine energy coming from the Great Spirit, as well as with your own personal rhythms. Dolphin is the keeper of the sacred breath of life and teaches us how to release emotions through dolphin breath. Dolphin creates rhythm, swimming through the water and breathing before submerging, then holding its breath for the duration of the underwater travel. As dolphin comes above water again, it blows its breath out in a manner resembling the popping of a cork. We can use this same technique to pull the stopper on our tensions and create total relaxation. This is a good exercise to use before entering the silence. So I'm coming off book here for a second, but in many times that we've talked about, it's very important in any kind of meditation or anything like that to learn how to breathe and to learn how to control your breath in order to gain that rhythm and slow your heart rate down. And so here it is, Dolphin is saying this, all right? And the fact that there are folks out there who wish to learn meditation, have trouble with meditations, who want to release tensions, this is a good medicine for you all, you know? Learn how to breathe and get rid of your tensions. So, mana is life force. Mana is present in every atom and is great spirit's essence. Please pay attention to this. Dolphin teaches us how to use life mana through our breath. It revitalizes each cell and organs and breaks the limits and dimensions of physical reality so that we may enter the dream time. Dolphin was traveling the oceans one day as Grandmother Moon was weaving the patterns of the tides. Grandmother Moon asked Dolphin to learn her rhythms so that he could open his female side to the silvery light. Dolphin began to swim to the rhythm of her tide, weaving and learned to breathe in a new way. As Dolphin continued to use this new rhythm, he entered the dream time. This reality was a new and different place from the seas he had known. Now, as I just described a couple of minutes ago before I read that last paragraph, in that in order to go into a good state of meditation, you learn how to breathe. Dolphin learned how to breathe with the rhythm of the moon and enters the dream time. So the old legends tell how you can go to the dream time by learning how to breathe. Okay, so I've talked about this for a long time in breathing and controlling and exercises. And here's Dolphin telling y'all, you can do this too, okay? So Dolphin came to discover the underwater cities of the dream time and was given the gift of the primordial tongue. This new language was the sound language. And you know, dolphins go, you know, that was brought by the spider from the great star nation, outer space.
Yep.
Dolphin learned that all communication was pattern and rhythm, and that the new aspect of communication was sound. He carries this original pattern to this day. Dolphin returned to the ocean of the Great Mother and was very sad until Whale came by and told Dolphin that he could return to be a messenger to the Dreamtime dwellers anytime he felt the rhythm and used his breath. And that goes for any of us. You want to enter the dream time or the meditation, learn to breathe and to control your breath. It's ancient. Dolphin was given a new job. He became the carrier of messages of our progress. The Dreamtime dwellers were curious about the children of Earth and wanted us to grow to be at one with the Great Spirit. Dolphin was to be the link. Y'all paying attention? Now, if the card was upside down, so If dolphin appears reversed, know that you are forgetting to breathe. You may be under stress and your body may need mana. You may be starving your cells and organs no matter how many vitamins you are taking. Your natural cycles may be fouling up. Pay close attention to your health and your feelings. If you are on the edge or just tense all the time, take time to relax and breathe the life force into your muscles. Focus on releasing old breath at the bottom of your lungs and refilling your respiratory system with regenerative mana. Breathe from the diaphragm and fill the lungs to capacity. Then exhale from the chest to the belly, allowing your body to totally relax as you breathe out. Another message of contrary dolphin is that many signals are carried through the universal tides or waves, and you may be failing to use your sonar. To detect these wave patterns, you may need to realign yourself with natural rhythms within your body. Then it is necessary to use the dolphin breath to connect to universal awarenesses and signals. Dolphin says to dive deeply into the water, to play by the coral reefs, and to discover the beauty of the rhythm of breath. So, which is interesting, and I've talked about this many times myself, old techniques that I learned back in the late 60s. You breathe into the count of 4. You hold your breath to the count of 4 or 6, sometimes 8. It depends on the exercise. But an average would be you hold your breath for the count of 6, and then you release all the air in your lungs and diaphragm to the count of 6. So you breathe in and you fill up really quick with the count of 4. But to breathe out to the count of 6, you're really pushing to try to find air at the bottom. But this is exactly what this is talking about how dolphin breathes. Takes in a big gulp, goes under the water, and then pushes it out. And in that, there is mana, the breath of life. So y'all learn how to breathe if you haven't. And I have to attest to this because over the many years that I've been practicing my breathing, having gone to my cardiologist the other day, my heart, even though I've got a heart condition, is good. My EKG turned out well, and all my blood work came out good. So, and I'm not taking anything fancy. I'm not taking Ormus or any kind of special whatevers. I'm not taking blue, green algae or nothing. I'm just being careful with my diet and doing natural things like learning how to breathe, which I've been doing since, I was 20 years old. So that's 50 years now I've been practicing breathing. So, I've got to say that I think it's helped me to live to 70, even with the abuse that I've done to my body, because there's a lot of other reasons like, how come I'm still here? But I have, learned to control my breath. And when your heart's pounding and this and that, and you can slow yourself down and you can go into that dream time. So what can you do to have a longer life? Learn how to breathe. I gotta say, I can't say it's the only reason I'm still alive, but I gotta say it's helped me. Absolutely.
Yeah. Well, just, they say a lot of people have problems just because they're shallow breathers. They don't really get actually enough oxygen in your body. And
Right.
then that's fine for a little bit, but if you do it over a prolonged time, then it gets bad.
You don't release enough carbon dioxide from your system and you literally get toxic. You get carbon monoxide or dioxide poisoning, whichever it is, but and so you got to, and one of the things that, back when I was doing theater and singing, if you're going to sing, you need to learn to sing from your diaphragm. And so you need to learn how to breathe, and you don't just breathe from your chest. And there's a lot of people, like you said, shallow breathers. They really don't get enough air.
Yeah.
They really
No.
don't. And so, if nothing else, it's a good way to relax. When if anything's stressful or anything's bother you, you take a couple of minutes and close your eyes. No matter where you are, you can be standing in line at the grocery store and do this technique. Slow your breathing down and it will calm you down. It works no matter where you are. So that's really good dolphin medicine. I really appreciate that card tonight. And I hope that you all will consider it. Breathing is important, and how you breathe is important. And it goes back thousands of years. The Hindus and so forth, breathing and sitting up and doing it's all in the breath. So
absolutely. That's why they always say, go get some fresh air. It means go out and breathe in a little bit. And you'll feel much better.
Yep. And the freshness of the air after a rain, I don't care where you are. There's just something about it.
Yep, that's for sure. You got a show tonight?
I think for just a little bit.
A little bit. Okay. Elderberry says you have to count 6 because you stop pushing the air out before surfacing. It'll get stuck in your gut and load with water. Oh, might be talking about underwater or something. But yeah. So anyway, great show tonight. A lot of stuff. Love the dolphin. Breathing is important. Remember, we had a few shows here, everybody. The one especially with Diane Martino. And she did some breathing exercises with us. Go check that one out. That was a good show to learn how to breathe. We did the close your eyes and breathe in, breathe out kind of thing. It was good. And I did a show the other night talking about how you could put your intentions in your breath, in your wishes, in your breath, and in your food, and it goes on. We read this out of this book here, and that was all about breathing and because if you can, they do the water thing where you put intentions into the water. Why can't you do it in your breath?
You can, and you can put your intentions in everything,
Yes.
But so it seems that the topic of breathing has come up. So again, tonight, Dolphin is kind of following up on it. You know what I mean? And so for those of you who haven't paid attention to the breathing thing, please think about it. It's not hard to do. You can do it while you're driving down the highway. You don't close your eyes, but you can regulate your breathing, sitting in traffic. You can do this anywhere. Before you go to sleep, it'll calm you down and help you have a more restful sleep. It's just, and the fact that Dolphin says there's manna from heaven. What is manna? It's the giver of life. It's that life energy, and it's in every single breath we take. So, and when you think about that and you say, every time I breathe, I'm getting, I'm breathing in the air from the creator. I'm breathing in the air of the universe. I'm breathing in, life force. So anyway, okay, that's enough.
That is for sure.
We love you, my friends.
Thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Delaney Pearl Jones, thank you for coming. Lucky Stone, Elderberry, Mary Wins, Shell Can-Am Free, Susie Q, Max Vision, Joanne Dancing Gypsy, Esley, all the people, Steve-O, and Synchro 9, everybody who came tonight, Deborah L. Smith, thank you for coming. It's been a great show. I hope you all enjoyed it. And everybody who watches this in the future, remember, only great shows come from the guests that come in to watch us so we can do our thing as a host to, put everything on. So anyway, with that, remember, go out and do something nice for people. You know, this is one of those times a year. Go out and help stock the food pantry up if you can. Wave to somebody. It doesn't cost you anything. Put a big smile on. Say hi to somebody. Go and do something nice.
And we
It's
didn't wish
free.
everybody happy Valentine's, and now it's
Oh
over
yeah. Happy
the
Valentine's.
next day. So, but
Well,
anyway,
you're in your neck of the woods, and I still got an hour left.
yeah. So
I
happy
can do it.
Valentine's, what's left of it, my dear friends.
Forgot
And,
all about that.
you know, cheers. Be
Yes.
safe.
Be the frequency you want to receive, everybody. Peace, everybody. And there we go.